Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. We are back with another tier list. It has been a minute since I've recorded a video, but we are back celebrating the launch of World of Warcraft Classic HARDCORE. Classic's been out for a while. HARDCORE, so you're going to play, and if you die, you have to start over your character. That kind of World of Warcraft. Starting this week, August 24th, is the official server launch. Now, I don't know if I'm going to play that because I am a wuss, and I don't like to die, but I will tell you right now which is going to be the best classes to play, or the hardest classes to play if you want some kind of challenge. Now, obviously, if you are a world-renowned warrior player, even if warrior is bad, you will do well at warrior because you know what you're doing. So this is going to be very general for everybody. What is the best class to play on average for everybody kind of involved? We're going to go in what I think is alphabetical order. It's not alphabetical order. Okay, we're going to go in kind of alphabetical order. Starting with Druid. Druid's going to be a B tier class to play. Druid has a ton of utility, great movement. Shapeshift allows you to get out of roots and stuns and whatnot. They can heal themselves. Lots and lots of things that Druids can do. Definitely not as much as, well, this is kind of going to be with every class, not as much as in retail, but in Classic WoW, Druids can do a lot of stuff, and it's going to be an above average class to play for sure. Hunter, a lot of people are going to roll Hunter because of the pet, but that does give you more things to manage. Overall, though, I do think the pet is a good thing, and Hunter is also something I'd put in B tier there. Hunter has great survivability. Feign Death can get you out of a lot of situations. Your traps, your CC. You can drag mobs around, kite them around, where other mobs wouldn't be able to. Hunters are able to solo a lot of things that other classes wouldn't be able to. A good hunter is probably more like A or S tier. So if you're a good hunter, you're probably more A or S tier, but on average, I'd say B. Many hunters have died because their pet chased a, fleeing mob into other mobs that came and then murdered them. So, yeah, hunter, great overall, but on average, I'd say B tier there. Definitely above average, though. Mages are going to be the kings. Mages are the kings of Classic HARDCORE already, and nothing is going to change that. Mages can AoE down a million enemies. Using their frost abilities, they can just prevent anything from ever getting to them. Using abilities like Ice Block, they can just not die. Mages have food that they can make. They have portals to travel around with, so they don't have to travel through potentially hostile areas. Mages just have everything going for them in Classic HARDCORE. The game mode, so to speak, is essentially made for them. Mages are the best class to play overall, and I'd say that probably for beginners as well. Obviously, don't try to pull too much in the early levels, levels 1 to 20 before you have all your abilities. But yeah, mages, very, very good. I would say S tier here. Rogue, I'm going to put in C tier. Now, this may come as a surprise. Some people will tout Rogue as one of the best classes to play. And certainly, this is one of the classes that has a large skill gap. If you know what you're doing as a rogue, you can be somewhat unkillable in a lot of situations. However, if you don't know what you're doing as a rogue, or if you, just kind of overestimate your abilities, rogues can become very squishy. They don't have a lot of ways outside of vanishing and stealthing to kind of free themselves. They do have good stuns and whatnot, but overall, I think Rogue is just going to be an average class to play for the average player. Again, though, I do think Rogue has a high skill gap. If you know what you're doing as a Rogue, definitely you can do some great things there. Shaman, I'm also going to go ahead and put in C tier. Shamans are very overpowered early game, but as their leveling progresses, they kind of even out with the rest of the playing field, and on top of that, I think they kind of weaken down. I think later leveling shamans are actually a little bit weaker than their counterparts, or at least that's just how it feels. They do have a lot of things to help them out: buffs, healing, a variety of utility. Ghost Wolf can help you move a bit faster before you have your mount as well, which is nice. So shamans do have a lot going for them, especially in the early game, but that's the problem, is that once you get into that mid and late game, I don't think they scale as well as the other classes. Also, they are horde only, so you have to kind of take that into account on whether or not alliance or horde is better. I know a lot of people are kind of leaning towards alliance right now ahead of hardcore. I think horde does have its merits, though, but I think overall alliance is a better side to roll there on Classic HARDCORE. So shaman, C tier, going to be average, I would say. Now, warrior, I'll be honest, I have a tier list on my phone that I'm referencing that I prepped for this just so I couldn't forget. I didn't even put warrior on it. Warrior's D tier. Warrior is They just don't have a lot of ways to save themselves. You have some kiting abilities, but mainly you're just running in there and face tanking everything. Um, Warriors are very, very fun to play. I love playing Warriors in Classic, personally. And if you have a healer, you're nigh unkillable. But if you're just leveling solo by yourself, there's a lot of situations that you get into where a paladin would be able to save themselves, a druid would be able to save themselves, um, and even a shaman in some cases would be able to save themselves, and just the warrior player is not going to be able to. Again, skill gap. If you are a very very skilled warrior player, maybe you're not D tier, but on average, I think warrior is not a great class for maybe the average player to jump in and dive in on. Paladin, I'm going to put in A tier. Paladins are warriors, but they can heal. Now, they can be quite boring in the early game to play, as a lot of their early game playstyle does revolve around auto attacking and whatnot. But just as they progress, the buffs they have, the healing ability, and then of course being able to bubble as they get that ability, leveling up and whatnot, it's a get out of jail free card. And just having that, even on a 1 hour cooldown, having that available to you can save you from so many situations that otherwise would have killed you and ended your run right there. So in many cases, a warrior and a paladin may scale the same in the early levels, but as the paladin gets more abilities, paladin really shoots up, where a very skilled paladin player, you kind of have to make a mistake in order to die. As long as you're pulling things, I mean, I guess that you could say that for a lot of classes, but paladin especially, if you're pulling 1 to 2 mobs, what you can handle at a time, something has to go very wrong for you to die, essentially. Especially while playing solo. Maybe that's different while you're in a group, but again, kind of the same with everything there. But Paladin, I'd say, is A tier. I think they are better than Druids, and I think they are better than Hunters in terms of survivability. I personally think Hunters are a lot more fun, but overall, I think Paladins are safer if you are patient and can know what you're doing. Now, Priests, I think, are also A tier, but specifically, I almost put Priests into S tier here. They're definitely not as good as Mages, but I do think they are a step above Paladins. Priests are looked at by a lot of players, including me for a long, long time, as kind of a boring class to play where you're basically just healing. But Shadow Priest has a ton of damage potential, along with just all of the abilities, the fears, the dots, okay, of course I can't think of everything to list. All the stuff priests can do. Priests can do so much with their kit, across in some ways between a mage and a paladin, kind of the best aspects of both. The only thing that they don't have going for them is being a cloth where they can be very, very squishy. So a priest player does have to be vigilant of that and not let enemies get to them, get to that point where they are doing intense damage. But if they're using their shields correctly, they're using their fears, their CC, their healing, and all that, it really shouldn't come to that point. I think, as Zaryu showed on his recent, if anybody watched his stream, leveling his priest to 60 in hardcore, priest just, in the hands of a very good player especially, can seem nigh unkillable. I'd say a player like Zaryu, who has been priest, who has played priest for years, is an S tier class. But for an average player, I'd say more A tier in line there. As long as you're patient, I think it is a good class to play. And then finally, we have Warlock. Now, a lot of people have been putting Warlock in B tier alongside Hunter. However, I really don't think that's accurate. I'm going to go ahead and drop them down to D tier. And the reason why is because the Warlock kit, while they do have a ton that they can do, a lot of it is not available till the later levels. As well, they do have a pet like the Hunter. However, their pet does not have the survivability or the utility generally that a Hunter pet does. It can be more difficult to control, at least in my experience. Now, I have played a lot more Hunter than I have Warlock. I will admit that. So if a Warlock main would like to let me know in the comments below how wrong I am, that's fine. But I did look up, I'm going to link some of the research that I did, some of the other details that I've looked at down in the description, and Warlock players are statistically one of the classes that dies the earliest in Hardcore Classic, and those statistics come straight from the Hardcore add-on. And I didn't go based off those statistics on all of these, because I think there is a grain of salt with everything, but I think that is a telling statistic for Warlock. I think it's a bit of a trap class where you think you're safe because you have the pet, and then when things go wrong, you just don't have the ability to save yourselves until later levels. Once you get to the later levels, sure you can. But at those early levels, levels 1 to 20, I think they are very difficult to get through, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Again, as with any other class, if you know what you're doing, you're going to be all right. But this is how I would rank the classes going into Hardcore Classic. Let me know what I got wrong, what I got right. If you agree, disagree, will you be playing Hardcore Classic on Thursday? And what are you going to be rolling? Are you going to go for a challenge, or are you going to go for mage and try to just get to level 60 as quick as possible? Let me know any of that, any of the above, down in the comment section below. Do all the other YouTube stuff if you don't mind. Appreciate it. And I'll be back with more videos hopefully soon. I'd like to get back into making videos. Let me know if you have any ideas, by the way. But I think I've rambled enough. With that said, thank you for watching, and have a great day.